I can, and it's fun. And poetry, I took a poetry class, and that kind of informed my poetry. I'm like, I want to add poetry in now, and I want to do this now, and I want to do that now, and it just kind of turned into this collage brainchild thing.
It makes for just really, really entertaining reading. I mean, it's just rollicking good fun. When we read it, I especially thought that the way you would assume a certain writer's style, like Oscar Wilde, Neil Gaiman, and Edgar Allan Poe made me laugh out loud, actually.
Yeah.
Because
that makes me really happy. Like,
because I'm a reader of both of those.
I love them.
And well, actually, Poe not so much, but you know, you can immediately recognize the style, and it just seems like you're a writer of great dexterity that is able to just kind of like inhabit those styles and
thank you so much.
Poke a little fun at them, and that's a tremendous talent. Can you talk a little bit about that? Like, what prompted that?
What prompted that? Actually, Neil Gaiman is where what reading him made me realize that third person narration doesn't have to be stilted. Like, it can have its own voice, and that's when I really started liking my stories, is when I realized that I could have fun with it, that I didn't have to just kind of be like, and then she walked to the vase, and it could just be, that vase came from, Mexico in 1833, but it is no longer in Mexico, and it is no longer 1833, and I could do stuff like that, and have it kind of become viable. So it was kind of an homage to that, to finding that one writer that changes your life, and it was him for me.
Yeah, okay, cool. I love The Sandman, actually. The Sandman is, I started reading in the 8th grade, and I just remember being so moved by it, because artistically it was really stark but powerful.
Yeah.
And the narrative within it, like the narrative of Morpheus and things like that, really shows you like the power of the graphic novel.
It does.
I started reading Watchmen and
I love
Bone
Watchmen.
and things like that. Yeah, it's amazing, and they take the same kind of risks with narrative structure.
Yeah.
So. Authors who experiment with narrative structure are like Mark Danielewski, who wrote like The House of Leaves. Have you read that?
I haven't, but I really want to.
Yeah.
I've heard it's really good.
It's a trip. Chuck Palahniuk, Paul Auster, and Junot Diaz, and that's just to name a few.
Yeah.
But you seem to want to take that further to a point where these journal entries, like I said, inhabit other writerly styles and things like that. Do you feel like the story stands up to this kind of free experimentation?
I hope it does. I'd like to think it does. I guess it's for everyone to judge for themselves, but that's what I'm going for. I want it to have its structure, but to be able to break the structure, and its own structure is, God, I don't want to say its own structure is structureless, because that's awful. It's terrible. It's a bad thing to say, and I'll get put in writer jail.
We have one.
Yeah. I visited a friend there the other day. Terrible shape. Yeah, used a cliche, and that's another thing with cliches. I try to stick away from them. I can't do a metaphor that I've heard before. Like if it's like pink as a rose, I don't let myself do it. It's pink as a dollar store tiara, or pink as Barbie's convertible.
See, and that's what makes it interesting. And your writing is chock full of those kinds of moments that defy expectation. And that's what makes your reader keep reading, even though sometimes, the story might get lost in a limerick, but you're still reading it in the voice of Addie. So, it's like you're taking a break from where the story's going, and you're just kind of delving in. You're zooming into her. I thought that was really interesting.
I'm really glad that came through.
So, what do you think? What effect do you think this experimentation with narrative structure has on your reader? Because as a writer, right, you're taking a lot of risks, and you know what you're doing. But do you feel like your readers are latching on to what you intend?
Usually I do. Sometimes there are some people who are like, I didn't get it, or why do you talk about pirates? That's so high school. Or, why does she do this? Why is this going to happen? And I try to explain as well as I can, because a lot of the times they're not getting the whole thing.
Right.
So when I do workshop pieces of it, I try to workshop pieces that are self-sustaining.
Yeah.
Like trees. No, not like trees. Like something else that's self-sustaining.
I'm trying to think. What is self-sustaining?
What is self-sustaining?
I mean, like a symbiotic relationship, I think, is self-sustaining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything in the ocean.
Yeah.
Tangent. Yeah. So I'm hoping that the reader follows it, and usually they do.
Cool. So we were talking a little bit earlier about the writerly voice. Every writer has his or her established voice. Like I could read a Junot Diaz passage, and
it's
without naming who the author is,
yeah.
And most of us at this conference could name who it is. Do you feel like you found your voice as a writer? Do you feel like Adeline Stein is Heather Pedoto's writerly voice?
I do in a lot of ways. Yeah, voice definitely. Content can shift, but I think I've found my place in writing.
Who are your literary heroes? I'm gonna hazard a guess and say maybe Douglas Adams.
I actually haven't read anything from
Really?
it, but I want to. I want to so badly. It's college. It's sapped my ability to read.
Oh, me too.
Anything that's not assigned. Don't worry, teachers. I've read what you've told me to read. But if it's if it's for myself, I can't sustain. I can sustain the books that are written for fifth graders. Because of elementary school volunteering. So if I'm helping them out and I'm like, well, what happens next?
Right.
I can take that home and finish it. But recently I've just started getting into reading again, which is really nice. So I'm just going to pile myself in front of books and hibernate.
Try Good Omens, because that's the Neil Gaiman.
I've started that one. I started that one 2 years ago, and then I'm like, I really love this, but I cannot read. I can't do it.
It's zany.
Yeah.
I never use the word zany. I will use zany to describe that book.
Yeah, I definitely want to finish it. Anansi Boys is one that I finished from
Cool.
him.
Well, other writers that just have similar senses of humor is like David Foster Wallace. Infinite Jest has that same kind of experimentation with narrative structure based on dates or journal entries and things like that. And they're usually very random, like there's adult diapers in there. So
Always a good choice.
Always a good choice.
Also, writers always put adult diapers in your stories.
I will. Next story.
Good.
But there are lots of established writers out there that experiment with humor and things like that.
It gives me hope. It's my it's better than my usual way of getting hope for my writing, and that's watching soap operas and reading bad books that have somehow gotten out there that I'm not going to name, but involve sparkles. Things like that. I'm like, if that can get out there, maybe I can get out there.